Hello, hello, hello. Veronica Heslop here of Empowered Solutions. Welcome to my holiday survival guide. I am going to share with you 5 power tips on how to survive and thrive this holiday season. And you are going to learn how to manage your stress. You're going to learn how to enjoy the holiday season and keep the peace and reduce your sense of overwhelm and not lose your mind. So let's see who we have on the webinar tonight. Welcome, Matthew. Hi, Matthew. We have Sissy, Roy. Roy. Oh, hi, Roy. And then there's Maudlin, who's all the way from England. Hi, Maudlin. Welcome to Canada. And there's Diane and Clyde. I'm sure as we get started, we will pick up some more people along the way. Now, I know this is a very busy time of year for people, so we're going to try to keep this webinar limited to 45 minutes. And but I do want you to stay till the end of the webinar because I do have some complimentary gifts that I am giving away and I do want you to get those. So please stay for the full 45 minutes. So we're going to zip right through this information because I know time is very important. So there can be a lot of advice coming to you this time of year about coping with the multiple stresses of the holiday season. If ever there was a time of the year that we can feel bombarded by the demands of the outside world, this time of year is it. So the holiday seasons is supposed to be a time for fun, celebration, and joy. But it can also be, for many people, a time of stress, sadness, and despair. So here's a quick question. How many different holiday celebrations do you think there are between between November and the middle of January? Write the number in your chat box. Matthew says 9. Maudlin is saying 15. And we have a new person on the call, Lily. Hi, Lily. And she's saying 9 as well. Well, let me take you out of your misery. Between the beginning of November and the middle of January, there are at least 29 different holiday celebrations observed by 7 of the world's major religions. So Christmas is the obvious one, but we also have winter solstice, Yule, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, which is the Jewish holiday celebration, and Milad-un-Nabi, which is the Islamic celebration, and Omisoka, which is Japanese, New Year's. So I've left out quite a few. These are the ones that come to mind. But regardless of the type of holiday celebration, the 5 tips that I'm going to give you tonight will be useful for you regardless of the celebration that you participate in. And these tips will help you to they'll go a long way in helping you to create a peaceful, joyful, and memorable family experience. So what all of these celebrations have in common is what I call the 3 F's: family, food, and festivity. So when we talk about family, we're talking about traditions, connection, and culture. Food, most of our celebrations center around meals. Certain meals are specific to the particular event, but they incorporate tradition and culture. And then festivity is really about celebration of people coming together, again, coming together around food, family traditions, culture. But again, whatever the seasonal event, they all have these three components in common to a more or lesser degree. So again, whatever festival or event that you partake in at this time of year, the discussion that we're going to have tonight is going to be relevant. So, but we are going to be focusing on Christmas, and Christmas is just a little bit different in the sense that, yes, it is a religious festival, but in our Western world and in our Western culture, it's become more than that. There's a lot of commercialization that has impacted on Christmas that really makes it a little bit different than the other celebrations. So just before we get into the meat of the presentation, let me just give you a little bit of information about myself. Veronica Hislop of Empowered Solutions Life Relationship Coaching. Um, I've been doing coaching now for 3 to 4 years. I come to coaching with over 15 years experience as a family therapist, an adult therapist, as well as a trauma counselor. And as I said, I worked in that capacity for over 15 years. So I do have a track record of working with people and dealing with stress and working with people in distress. So I do have some understanding as to how stressful this time of year can be for people. The bulk of my life relationship coaching work um, centers around people coping with stressful situations, and much of my coaching begins with focusing on stress management and helping people to get back balance in their lives. So that's the work part of me. When I'm not working, I'm spending a lot of time with my animals. I like to do a lot of walking and exploring the trails that we have in Brampton, Ontario, and it's a very beautiful part of Ontario. And I also like to spend time with my music, playing piano, playing jazz music, and pretending to be a jazz singer. Um, I don't really sing. I only do this for myself, but it's my hobby, and I just love doing it. Whoops, I see a comment from Matthew in the chat box. And Matthew has said, okay, Matthew. Matthew says he's heard me sing and that I shouldn't quit my day job. Okay. So the holiday season, as we said, is the time for families to come together. But sometimes, coming together with your family for some people is not necessarily a positive experience as we would like to believe. For some people, they're forced to reconnect with family members that they perhaps don't even like, family members that they rarely see and would not rather be with. And it can be a time when old grudges can resurface, old stories can get repeated, and unresolved family dynamics can get replayed. And so that is why, for many of us, holiday gatherings can be stressful. And it is within this context that we are challenged really to have Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy Hanukkah. If ever there was a time that we can be set up to be disappointed, the holiday season would be it. So, I mean, there are two opposing forces working here. And I think they come in the form of pressures from the outside world. The Hollywood hype, the traditions the cultural expectations that tell us indirectly how we should behave and how we should interact at this time of year. And then we struggle, on the other hand, with the demands that we place on ourselves based on our own individual and family expectations that can challenge our personal boundaries. So on the one side you have the shoulds, the traditions, the media, and then on the other side you're struggling with your own boundaries. And these two are opposing forces that are in conflict. And that is where the pressure of the season comes from, the shoulds. So let's take a look at the Hollywood messages and let's tackle the Hollywood hype first. It's so important for us not to get caught up in the nostalgic holiday season hype, which is perpetuated by the media. The holiday movies, the holiday specials, and of course the holiday music. Paying attention to the Hollywood and the media can leave us trapped in this vortex of unrealistic and idealistic expectations. It is so easy for us to forget that the stories and they're just not real. It's this Norman Rockwell picturesque presentation. Think of The Sound of Music, some of the movies this year. Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, Love Actually, A Christmas Carol. Think of all of the holiday movies and that you see this time of year. And there are a few rules that these Hollywood movies follow. Rule number one: in spite of their difficulties, families will always put them aside and come together and sit down and have a peaceful, happy meal together. Not true. Rule number two: whatever the challenges, family members will always learn to find new meaning and growth from their circumstances. Not true. And the third rule of Hollywood is that the holiday season movies always have a happy ending. And I think when you watch all of this stuff, you forget that it's just fantasy. It is not real. So don't get caught up in the fantasy that's being presented to us at this time of year. Yeah, it's just a fantasy, and let's not forget that. So whatever you do, don't get caught up in the old irrational compare and despair trap that people tend to fall into at this time of year, where you're comparing yourself to ideals and despairing because you or your family can't live up to them. And what people don't realize is that this is a cognitive distortion. So where you're comparing your negative traits with what you perceive to be other people's more positive ones, and all it's going to do is it's going to leave you coming up wanting. So really do not get caught up in the compare, despair, cognitive distortion. So the holiday season is also the time of year where our own personal needs can be juxtaposed with those of our family, both nuclear and extended. If we have not developed the skill of learning to state our expectations clearly to others, we can be left feeling pressured and resentful. So, standing your ground and learning to say no to someone without feeling guilty, and especially if they are a person in power, or if they are a person in authority, or if they are manipulative, this can be really difficult for a lot of people and can really be tiresome and wearisome. And we're going to talk about how you go about doing that in the next few slides. So what do you do with an overbearing relative who always has holiday celebrations at their home when this year you want to do something different? Well, the most important thing for you to do is to create a plan and rehearse and practice that plan. So first, get grounded and clear on what you want and what you need to say. And in order to do that, you may even want to speak to a third party as a way to clarify and to establish your position. And when I say third party, I mean a counselor or a coach. You want to speak to somebody who's objective and can help you gain some perspective, and they may even be able to help you to validate, give you some validation in terms of the position. And they also may be able to help you to own your position. So, yeah, speak to a third party, clarify and establish your position, and then you want to garner some supportive allies in your family. And then you work on your emotions so that you're in a grounded state, and you politely present your position to the person in question, and you stick to your guns. And what I want you to do is to try and find a way to make things win-win. So you might say something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but we're not going to be able to do Christmas dinner this year, with you this year, but we can come by on New Year's Day. Would that work for you?" So always offer an alternative solution well in advance, so you get people to get prepared to the idea that you are offering. So if ever there was a time where we need to be clear on who we are and what is important to us, this is the time of year for that to happen. So I am getting some positive responses um, to, to, to those ideas. Yep, good feedback from Ray. Okay, good. And some yes from Sissy. Okay, good. So, yeah. So let's continue. So what if you are the overbearing relative? Well, time to accept that plans don't always have to go exactly our way. Perhaps this is the year where we are being called upon to do something different. And we may have to respect the fact that others in the family may have their own plans, they may want to develop their own traditions, and they may want to find their own way in terms of commemorating this time of year. And in them doing so, it is not necessarily a personal affront or a rejection of us. It's not always about us. It could be about them and what they want to do and about what's important to them. And so more than ever, I think the holiday season asks us to be flexible and tolerant and accepting of each other. Think of the mantras and the words that are promoted this time of year. It's the season. 'Tis the season of goodwill. And so let's try to evoke that and be respectful of other people's wishes and try to make things win-win. Yeah, so I am getting some feedback regarding some of the things that I've just said. Maudlin says, yeah, it can be hard to assert your boundaries. And yes, Maudlin, it can be. But yes, I'm getting some positive feedback. Yeah, it is hard, but remember, this is about respect for yourself and respecting other people. And sometimes saying no to others, saying yes to yourself means saying no to other people. And let's go on and talk about the 5 tips. And maybe the 5 tips will help you to put some of what I've just said into perspective. So these are 5 tips to help you enjoy the holiday season and to reduce your sense of overwhelm. Number 1, think of your family as a sitcom and just savor the fact that your family isn't dull or boring. So I think, if you understand that the perfect family does not exist, and if you understand that most families range from being idiosyncratic to being dysfunctional, and most of us, our families are somewhere in the middle to a more or lesser degree. So if you kind of understand that, you can kind of step back a little bit and not be so emotionally connected to what people in your family do or say. Um, so you can kind of detach a little bit from your family, and it really is a very interesting position to kind of step back and kind of listen and observe the dynamics, and not necessarily get caught up in them. If you come from a family where ongoing conflict is normal, don't expect things to be miraculously different at this time of year. So my advice, limit your expectations and embrace the quirkiness of your family and just savor the fact that, there's a lot of drama and your family is not dull. Let's move on to tip number 2. And it's a bit of a continuation of tip number 1. But it's a good idea to try and develop a healthy detachment. This year, for this holiday season only, why not try and let go of some of the old resentments? Find a healthy way to park some of those old hurts, those old transgressions, those old stories, and just kind of stop and think of the negative energy that you waste year after year holding on to all of those resentments. So I encourage each of you who's listening to this webinar, be the bigger person, be the better person, and just for this year alone, try and see if you can let those resentments go. And so it's about really, finding ways to sit back, observe, and listen, and not take things so personally. And I think in order for people to do that, you do have to take some time for yourself. And so the picture that I have here is of a Santa who is skiing or yeah, enjoying the ocean. And, you know, even Santa has moments of zen. So the question is, what's yours? So take some time out for yourself. Swim, walk, meditate. Take care of yourself and ensure that your needs are met before embarking on a family encounter that could have the potential to be stressful. Now, let me tell you a little story. I remember one year I was responsible for doing the family dinner. And I remember getting up early on Christmas morning, preparing my turkey, putting it in the oven, and then I took off and I went for a swim at the YMCA. And after I went for a swim, I went for a steam. And so an hour and a half later, I'd returned back home, and I was in such a wonderful, positive state of mind that I don't even remember what happened that year. It, I was just in my own world, and none of the drama that the family always presented every year, it just went over my head. So take care of yourself and, find your own moments of zen and do your own self-care prior to participating in a family event that has the potential to be stressful. I'm seeing some agreement to what I'm saying in the chat box. Matthew's agreeing. Right, yeah. And Magdalen's agreeing. So yeah, I think I don't have any questions. No one's written any questions. So we're going to continue. Which is keep a clear head. So watch and limit your alcohol intake. Explosive family conflicts are most likely to occur when alcohol is involved. And because it's the holiday season is about celebration and festivity, there's going to be a lot of alcohol there. That's just a part of the celebration. But knowing this important bit of information means that you can attend your family gathering armed with a plan. And what I mean is know your limit, do your research, and know how many drinks you can have before your mood shifts. And if you know that, after 4 drinks, things get a little bit out of hand with you, limit yourself to just below your trigger point. Drink lots of water. Don't be, try not to get dehydrated, and make sure that you don't drink on an empty stomach. So, take some responsibility this year and be in control of your alcohol rather than alcohol being in control of you. And in the same line of thinking, for those of you who use substances such as marijuana or any other substances, I would say to you this: make a decision. You have a choice. You can make a decision. You can choose to partake of your substance, your marijuana or whatever it is that you whatever illegal substance that you might use. You can choose to do that. But if you choose to do that, then I would say don't be around your family, because alcohol, substance abuse is not a good. It's a recipe for disaster. And if you put that with family members that can be annoying, it can be a recipe for disaster. So, if you want to keep a clear head, make a decision. You're not going to be smoking marijuana. You're going to be visiting with your family just for that day or the hours or whatever. But don't do both, okay? You want to keep a clear head as much as possible. Okay, Matthew's asking a question. Yeah, I think what I'm saying, Matthew, is not that we have choices and that we can choose to partake of our substance, or we can choose to be with the family. But, if you're going to partake of your, let's say, marijuana, and then you've got alcohol thrown into the mix, and then you have a family that, that tends to be melodramatic, um, you know, it could be potentially explosive. So, you have a choice. Make a decision. Either you're going to do your drugs, your illicit drugs, or you're going to be with your family. But don't do both. Yeah? Okay. So let's leave that up for a little bit so that keep. So in that vein, I think it's always a good idea to develop an exit strategy. And, don't leave things to chance. Prepare ahead of time and have a strategy that allows you to escape or take a break for from an uncomfortable situation. So every family has the idiot, racist, sexist, homophobic, or just plainly rude family member that says inappropriate things, has a little bit too much to drink, and then, they say inappropriate things. So, yeah, they may be politically incorrect, but the family get together may not be the place for you to openly correct them. And you may need to mentally, call them a jerk in your own mind, but you might have to change the subject, you might have to leave the situation, get up, go clear your head, go and take a breath of fresh air, go for a walk. But you may have to find ways not to react and to give an audience to their rudeness. So it might be that you spent too much time with the adults and you might need to go and play and hang out with the kids. As I said, you might need to go for a walk, you might need to get a breath of fresh air. But create your own exit strategy. And if you feel that you must respond to an overly rude person, just make a very simple remark, that is so inappropriate. You're being really rude. And don't make it a personal attack on the person. So don't call them stupid. Don't call them an idiot. Don't tell them that they don't know what they're talking about. Just, comment on their behavior. And then maybe it's time for you to employ your exit strategy. But, again, so don't leave things to chance. Prepare an exit strategy ahead of time. And be respectful and polite about it. Okay, I have a question. Sissy's asking, are there any other strategies to deal with a rude family member? Well, I would hazard a guess that when we have rude family members, that's a part of their character. This is not the first time that we are encountering their rudeness. So perhaps a strategy that you could use is maybe talk to them before the family event, and just ask them to kind of rein themselves in because they do have a track record of being explosive or rude or whatever. So you can talk to them ahead of the event, or you can take them aside and talk to them after the family event. If you really feel it's important for you to let them know how you feel about their behavior. So yeah, I mean, if the exit strategy protocol doesn't work, and you feel that you do need to speak with them, you can speak with them before the event or take them aside and speak after the event. And of course, the rules that I stipulated before, make it about their behavior. and not about them personally. Okay? I hope that's useful information. Okay, good. So let's. So our fifth tip is find your own meaning for this time of the year. You know, I think it's really important to create and define the holiday season in your own way. If this is a religious time of year for you, that's great. Is it a time for you to slow down and reflect? That's great. Is it a time for you to reach out and connect with others and to mankind? That's great too. Is it, or is it just a time for you to simply appreciate the unique and peculiar, odd, eccentric family that you have? That's great too. Whatever you do, don't get caught up into the compare and despair trap, okay, that I talked about previously. Comparing yourself to ideals and despairing because you can't live up to them. Create your own traditions. Find your own meaning. You know, who says that you have to have turkey with stuffing this time of year? You know, if you have Chinese food, you send out for a Chinese takeaway and everybody's sitting around the fire and talking and sharing, that's just as nice or just as good as having a Christmas dinner. It doesn't have to, a Christmas dinner with all the trimmings. So, you know, you can create your own definition of whatever holiday celebration you're celebrating. Make it your own. If you know you have traditions that are meaningless, that are not enjoyable, that they're not fun, don't bring people together, then why would you continue on with that tradition? Here's a little story. I think I saw it somewhere in Reader's Digest. And it was of a young woman who was doing the Christmas dinner, Christmas turkey. And the family tradition was to put the turkey on its breast and to cut off the legs and roast the legs separately. And this young woman, you know, she was doing the turkey and she just wondered why they did it that way. So she went to her mother and asked her mother, and her mother said, "Oh, well, you know, it's a family tradition. This is how we always cook the turkey. But you know what? You can, you know, I don't know why, but, you know, you can go and ask Grandma." So she goes to Grandma, and Grandma says, "Oh, my mother always did it that way. That was just a tradition in our house. Go and ask Great-Grandma, who's in a nursing home." So this young woman takes it upon herself to go and visit her great-grandmother and to ask her about the turkey. And grandmother said, "Oh, the reason why we do that is one year the turkey was so big we couldn't get it in the roasting pan, so we just turned it over on its breast and cut the legs off and stuck it in the oven that way." Oh, you mean there's no actual reason for us to cook the turkey this way? It's just a tradition that was something that we thought was a tradition, but really was a practice that was just practice that was just a necessary practice that was just kind of some handed down. So again, you know, take a look at your traditions and figure out whether they have meaning and value for you. And if not, create your own. There's no law that says you have to do things a certain way. Okay, so those were the 5 tips, but I thought I would throw out a few more tips to you. You know, create a budget and stick to it. Get creative. Think about providing service and think about providing connection rather than buying expensive gifts. Get help and delegate. And most importantly, laugh, play, and have fun. Find the magic in the season. And the last tip is know when to stop doing and start enjoying the holidays. But I want to share some complimentary gifts with you. The first is my self-care stress toolkit. And this is a toolkit that is full of stress relief practices, tools, relaxation. We have a meditation in there. We have checklists. Lots of things that you can use not just throughout the holiday season, but throughout the year to help you find instant relaxation and bring ease back into your life and really help you to manage your stress. And for all of the people who have registered for the webinar tonight, that you're going to get that directly. And the second gift that I have for you is a self-care template. You will have to, if you're on the webinar, you get that directly tonight. We will send that out to you tonight. But if you're listening to the replay, you will have to connect with me through my website, www.empowered-solutions.ca. So connect with me through my website, and we will get you the self-care template. And it's just a list of questions that you can ask yourself each day, different questions in terms of how to get you to kind of zone in to how you're practicing self-care on that particular day. So I'm very cognizant of people's time. I don't see any questions. Any questions? We don't? Okay. So, remember to relax, take your breaks, find peace of mind. This holiday season. And there you have it, the 5 tips to help you thrive and survive the holiday season. I'm from my heart to yours, and to anybody that's listening to this webinar, I wish you a happy holidays and all the best for 2017, the new year. I'm Veronica Hislop of Empowered Solutions Life Relationship Coaching. Break the chains and step forward into the future.